Welcome, everyone. Excuse me. My name is Senko, and I am a resident here at Upaya. And I see a lot of new faces, I think. Who's here for the first time? Okay, not as many new faces as I thought. But welcome to those who are here for the first time. Welcome back. And I am very excited to have Chef Lois and Chef Walter here with us to talk about this beautiful book, um, and also to share their wisdom with us, the wisdom that has come to them from their traditions and native peoples. And this event was born this June in the kitchen here at Upaya during a Planting Life program around pancakes, which I love to cook for the residents. And Chef Lois's blue corn pancake recipe was my go-to recipe. And so I was asking her about it, and she pointed me to her sunflower cake recipe. It's also delicious, and I recommend. And there was this immediate connection that I felt around working with food, and learning from food, being taught by the ingredients how to work with it. And it lives for me so much in our Zen teachings around cooking, and lives for Lois in her teachings from the native peoples. And so we decided we'd do something. And 5 months later, here we are. And yesterday, Lois and Chef Andrew, who's in the kitchen right now, preparing our wonderful dinner with our kitchen steward, Henry, spent 7 hours with the residents, making 152 empanaditas and 140 tamales. And Lois and Andrew brought this incredible generosity, generosity with their teachings, with their energy, and this amazing warmth to the residents. And it was such an honor to be with them in the kitchen. And the thing that stood out to me, that is so resonant with our Zen teachings, is Lois again and again talked to us about relationship. Relationship with the plants, with the ingredients, with each other, that we can't force empanadita dough to do what we want it to do, that we have to listen to it, and that we listen with our ears and with our eyes and with our hands and with our noses. Chef Lois listens with her nose, perhaps most of all, I learned. So it's an honor to have them both, and they will tell their stories and how they came to be here today. Thank you all for being here, and a special thanks, as always, to Roshi Joan. And in particular, I'm feeling deep gratitude to be in a place that really holds and honors so many spiritual traditions. And it's so meaningful to have Chef Lois and Chef Walter here. So thank you both very much.
Thank you, Senko. My name is Lois Ellen Frank, and I am Sephardic and Ashkenazi on my dad's side, and Northern European and Native American on my mom's side. So I'll talk a little louder. Growing up, my mom said, because we were mixed, not only in our heritage, that she always thought of all people as corn, and that there are many colors of corn. And when you are more than one, you're just still corn, you're just speckled. So she told us growing up that we were speckled corn. And I've lived in Santa Fe for since the late 80s. I was classically trained as a chef. My bachelor's degree is in photography. So I did all the photographs in the cookbook as well. And I have a PhD from the University of New Mexico in culinary anthropology. My research was the discourse and practice of Native American cuisine, Native American chefs, mostly male gender, Native American cooks, mostly female gender, in contemporary Southwest kitchens. So I spent many, many years researching food. And I think we're going to just tag team, right? So do you want to introduce yourself? And then we're going to talk a little bit about the history and contextualize these ingredients, why we work with them, what they mean. And then you're going to eat them for the best part of the night, right?
I just want to introduce myself. My name is Walter Whitewater. I'm Dene, a Navajo. I'm originally from a place called Pinon. It's a small town on the reservation where I'm from, where west from Candice. I'm sure you're all familiar around the area. You know, some of you probably been out there. So my area is mostly I'm in the kitchen, sweating away and make prepare a meal and to create how it's going to taste and how it's going to look. So that's my area. Mostly Lois and I, we've been working through how everything all started was through looking underneath the camera, using 4x5 back in the days, doing a photo shoot. And I have John Sedler, and he did a tamale. Lois was photographing his food. And I'm looking to the camera and saying to myself, I bet I can do that with my food, my own native food. You know, back in the days, if you pick up a cookbook, maybe you might just see a picture on the front side. When you open up, it's all in writing, black and white. That's all you see, because the elders were concerned about that. How come there's no picture? How come we don't understand the meaning of writing and reading, you know? So they wanted to see the picture of how it's going to look. And I think that's what really part of that launched me in that direction, working with food. And as you do in a food, that you grow with it step by step. It's not a career that I wanted to do, and just something that I just went out to LA and helped build a studio, prepare. You know, Lois is.
We've been working together since the 90s.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's how it started off. That I was more introduced because she did a lot of photographing different foods, fast food, and commercializing and all that, you know. And so that's what launched me to become. And at the time, I did not understand what I was doing, but to me, it was just work. It was beyond work, something that, in a spiritual way, in a native way, it was happening for me. Later in the future, I look back and realizing,
so part of that's the journey. He talked about, I had a commercial advertising food photography studio. And when you think about who has the money to pay for a food photographer, it's the large corporations. And this was one of the biggest trajectories when we met and moving down this road. But it's the corporations. So you go into the frozen food section of a supermarket and there's a picture. Or you go into a fast food restaurant and there's a menu board and they want you to pick which number. But when you get the food, it never resembles the photo. And I had an elder come to the studio and we were photographing this little basket of, I won't mention clients, fried things. And he looked and he said, "Oh, is this the poetry from within?" Question number one. Uh-oh. I think the blinders went on and I was thinking, oh, please leave me alone. I'm making money. Just leave me alone. And then he topped it off by saying, "Is this the legacy that you want to leave behind?" And the answer was no. We were promoting foods that we didn't eat. I've never seen so much gluttony and waste in my life. 300 pounds of chicken for one basket, and then they want to throw it away because they're afraid of liability. They won't donate it. They won't give it to a wolf farm. We worked with lawyers getting releases just so we could have the food go somewhere. It was tragic. And so, you know, life is interesting in that when a seed or a thought is planted, you know, knowledge is power. Why is knowledge power? Because you have a choice. You can put the blinders on and ignore it, which part of me did want to do, I will be honest. But the other part was like, I can't live with myself. I can't do this. This is not the legacy. Not what I'm going to do. So I loaded up this giant truck, and Walter and one other guy, we call him John Boy, drove to Santa Fe, and we put it all in a 3-bedroom apartment that we rented, and didn't know anything, and just sort of, my sales rep was probably the most upset because he made 25% off of every job that I did. So he was like, "Where are you?" "Oh, I'm on location." And, you know, we were hunting for land and a place and making it all work. And so I think that from there was born the thought, how could I document native foods, indigenous foods? So I trotted off to New York and went to the publishers and said, I want to do a book on Native American cuisine. And they looked at me and they said, Native people don't have a cuisine. That was tragic. And they said, with a BA in art, you have no credentials. And I thought, oh, okay, I'll go back to school. So I went back to school in 1996 and got my master's. And I will say that I'm not a natural student. I'm very visual. I think Walter is too. The written word is very difficult for me. Many of my professors said, you're thinking like a native and it's all cyclical and academia is A to B. You do an abstract and you go right, linear. And I was like, but it's all connected. It's a circle. There's a circle of life. Not in that genre, not in that area. And so it took me 3 years instead of 2 years to get my master's, and I didn't pass on to the PhD level the first time. I had to take all the tests again. And then it took 11 years to get my PhD, but that's okay, right? It's all part of the journey. And I think what is life but the journey? And so Walter and I started working together. We did come out with the first book in 2002, so I didn't get my PhD till 2011. So Walter got an honorary PhD. And, you know, when you take a long time to do something, especially in academia, people retire and they become emeritus. And so every time one of my professors would retire and become emeritus, they no longer count. So then you're like, oh, you have to add someone. And then on the day I finally defended, the last person I added to my committee said, you know, I just don't get this. And I was thinking, that's okay, just sign. So I can have my PhD. You know, I knew I was going to do rewrites, just sign. But one of the things I did, because we are so tactile and experiential and sensory orientated, is Walter and another chef, one of the head of my committees, he's an ethnomusicologist. So he's very sensory. Sound is really important in the kitchen. You know, and the sounds are different than the beautiful bells we've heard here, but they're machines, and they're sizzling sounds, and there's clanking, there's knives, there's sounds. So sound is a really important vibration, at least to me. And so we did an 8-course tasting menu for the committee. And at the end of the 8-course tasting menu for my PhD, the last holdout said, now I get it. And we were like, yes. And so we set out on this journey to document and educate. And one of our biggest givebacks now is to work in Native American communities because the stats are devastating. Native Americans have the #1 rate of diabetes, the #1 rate of obesity, #1 rate of heart disease. Why? Why is this happening? Because there's a deviation from the indigenous diet. The simple, beautiful foods some people have referred to as peasant foods, right? The beans, the corn, the squash, are not steak and potatoes. They're much more sustainable. They're much more alive. And so we now go into Native communities and train the cooks and help them with gardens. And the state of New Mexico is wonderful because it finances this. And we have a contract with them to do this. So it's really important. But I just want to contextualize history and then we'll open it up to questions. There are 4 distinct historic periods in Native cuisine. And my research goes back 10,000 years, which not quite enough because in 2020 now or 2021, they found footprints in White Sands, New Mexico. And those footprints had moss. And that moss was radiocarbon dated at 22,000 years old. People were here much earlier than I went back to when I thought fire was born, because that's when people started to cook food. So that was how I chose 10,000 years. And so we had this pre-contact period. You can also call it pre-colonial, and it included wild game, lots of plants, roots and fruits and vegetables and grains and beans and corn and squash and wild greens and all different types of seeds. And people ate seasonally, right? You didn't go to the supermarket and buy a strawberry in the middle of February when they are not local and precious. And we didn't have the idea that you could get anything you wanted anytime. That's a very Western mindset. Native is following the seasons. Now we're moving into the tamales and the corns and the dried foods, right? The chilies, and then spring will birth these baby greens and life will begin again. And then we'll go into the fruits and the luscious peaches and all the different things that are part of seasonal. So pre-contact, but we delineate by saying 1492, while we no longer acknowledge Columbus as discovering America, we do credit Columbus with facilitating an exchange. And that exchange we call the Columbian Exchange. And there were 8 ingredients, which I called the Magic 8. And that was originally the title of the cookbook. And my publishers thought that everybody would think I was a nutcase with the Magic 8. No one would know what I was talking about. But 8 foods: corn, beans, squash, chili, tomato, potato, vanilla, and cacao. So when we deconstruct that, that means the Italians did not have the tomato. The Irish did not have the potato. Britain had fish and no chips. There were no chilies in East Indian foods, in Asian foods, in Greek foods, in African foods, and areas that we now think that are just luscious for their desserts and chocolate and vanilla, like France and Belgium and Switzerland had no vanilla and no chocolate. So these are foods, these are gifts from the Americas, but it's never static. And so as ingredients make their way to Europe and other parts of the world, ingredients from Europe and other parts of the world make their way here. And I do want to contextualize, because everybody thinks history is objective, and history is not objective. It's subjective. And I really like the bicycle wheel analogy. So if 1492 is the historical event, if I'm from Indonesia or Thailand, or I'm Aboriginal from Australia, or I'm European, or I'm African, or I'm Asian, or I'm East Indian, or I'm Native American, or I'm European, my perspective on 1492 is different, depending on who I am, and where I'm from. So history historically has always been told from a Eurocentric perspective, but there are many perspectives. There's that circle again, right? On the same historic event. So it's very important. And once we allow for those diverse and differing views of the same thing, we're fine. It's when we think there's only one way. There's never one way. Circle. Go back to the circle. So we call these foods first contact. So what foods were introduced here to Native people? Domesticated animals and their byproducts. Did Native people ever try and approach a herd of elk or bison that were lactating and get close enough to that mommy's udders to milk her? Once. And then the tribe told everybody else, not a good idea with a wild animal. They don't want to be touched and milked. No dairy, no cheese, no yogurt, no cream, no butter, no ice cream. So those impacted the native diet amazingly. And then the third period is the most painful. And countries around the world are now formally apologizing to Indigenous people for the effect that colonization had. Here in the United States, what happened? Forced relocation, forced religion, forced conversion. When you lose your homeland, you lose your sense of place. You lose your sense of how to live, what to harvest, when to harvest, how to harvest, when to hunt. It was tragic. So what did the government do? Well, the US government stepped in and issued rations. We're going to feed you guys. We're going to give you lard and flour and coffee and sugar and infamous canned meat called Spam, and you're going to survive on these foods. All right? And so fry bread was born. The diet changed. Then there was the boarding school era, ripped from their homes. Language, can't speak, right? And so the historical trauma was huge. And where we are now is a beautiful place because that's called the new native. So the third period we call government issue. The fourth period we call the new native. And so for the first time in history, Native communities are choosing what's on their plate, what do they want on their plate, not what the US government tells them to put on their plate, how they want to prepare it, how they want to harvest it, how they want to present it. Some communities do want fry bread. Some don't. That's okay. Everybody gets to choose for the first time. And so this is very important, and we're in a great place. And Walter and I really focus on the new. So what is the new? Going back to the past to move forward to the future. We call it going back to the future because it's very important that we educate and use this knowledge for the next 7 generations. The earth is our mother. She can only sustain so much. How do we live harmoniously? How do we allow for food and plants and all of these things to perpetuate for the next 7 generations? We have to make some changes. And so that's part of this re-indigenizing, reclaiming, revitalizing. You know, a lot of people like to use the word decolonize. I don't think we decolonize. I'm speaking to you in English. They had a huge impact. I can't undo that. I like my iPhone. I like my car. Am I ever going to completely decolonize? No. Can I re-indigenize? Yes. So I rather would rather than undoing, moving forward and redoing. Do you understand the difference in the vibration of the word, the way it feels? Not undo. Redo, change for the better. So that is the history, and that's a lot of what we do. So I'm going to turn it over to Walter, and he's going to give you another perspective on that little bison, the spokes. So of the foods and why we chose, the foods, or share a story.
Well, I'm gonna what I experienced, not someone's story. What I experienced, you know, not being prepared, what I am today, as I growing up with throughout my years and working with others. And when I saw that plate, what John did, and it was so beautiful, And I wanted to make my plate like that, my food that way, because I wanted to represent the Native people and just something that moment, it changed everything. Then the elders were concerned back home. They were concerned, how can we change because the diet's going to change right in front of us? How everything started was back in the days, they live off the land, And you see it in the canyon, petroglyphs. And you see that. There's stories. And some other people tell us, no, it's been introduced. You guys never had this type of animals or this type of food, but we have it. It tells a story on the rocks. It's just something that I believe in that way, and the elders were concerned about the future because it's going to change. The first wave that came in, my people live off the land. They know what medicine to pick. There's certain things that they're not supposed to touch. They respect that. There's certain plants, maybe you might just use a leaf, or maybe some of them maybe just be used for the root for certain reasons. And some of those plants were medicine. But later in the future, it started to grow and they use it, combining it in their food and cook with it. That when I working with my dad back home, I was preparing, and he's smelling it and tasting it and looking at it and just saying that this is used for a certain part of your body, certain to heal people with. That made me realize food is our medicine. And what really struck me was and realizing and I always hear in the native tongue is don't forget your language, don't forget your culture, don't forget these ways. And it's there, ceremonies, all that. But one thing is like, how about the food? Because the concern was right there. What they talked about, they didn't tell us the whole story. All I knew was the seeds, because it's not going to be money in the future. It's going to be the seeds. It's going to, if that's the seeds that we're going to have to replant that seed. Just like when the Navajo people were being relocated back home, not far from where I live, there's a cave and the clay of pots, they're full of seeds, all these different kind of seeds that were in there. And the woman that she did that says, I don't know if I'm going to be able to come back here. We don't know what's going to happen if we leave. We're going to be leaving soon. So they had to put some seeds away because everything that they had was being chased down or being burnt the field. What is there to turn to? What we left behind. What we're leaving behind right now, but ready to happen.
So this was the long walk. If any of you are familiar, the Navajos were forced by the U.S. government from Canyon Duche to Bosque Redondo, which was a prison camp. And that's in the southern part of the state of New Mexico. It's called Fort Sumner now. And there's a great exhibit. We went.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyway, so that way they knew how to live at that time, because once they were there, coming back, there's another wave that came in, the government rash that Lois just talked about, the clothing, the haircut, the story, whatever it was, it's going to change because they're going to be walking back with this. Different nationals, there's a lot of things that happen there. And they're going back into the sacred mountain that we have, a sacred mountain that we go back. Some we're not allowed to go back in. Some they went branch off to a different direction, and stories like that, that the people survive on certain food, certain herbs, certain four-leggeds that they ate to survive. And realizing, and that was the wave. And the third wave is, what do we have today? If you always like in a crowd, it always ask Native people, what is the native food today? What is it? And they said, the guy was waving his hand. I can't avoid him, because I knew he's going to come up with a crazy answer. He says, okay, isha. He says, hot dog. Because that's what's happening. The fast food that moved in. McDonald's, Taco Bell. That's when the diet changed. That's when there was a big, huge concern, probably like mid or late 90s. I think it was late 90s. I went to a ceremony, sitting in a circle like we're sitting on the ground, reconnecting. And they said, we're concerned about our elders are going left and right. Not only that, our children, the younger generation starting to change. It's not only alcohol, it's not only drugs, it's the food. What are we doing with the food? What's happening? The sugar is starting to work on us. That's how they talk about shinklakan, means something sweet, klakan, sweet. So that's something that happened, and realizing I'll be the one to help change that. But how? The generations, that's when we were concerned to come out with the book. That's the only way that the elder could understand, to looking at the picture. That's where our give back is. Give back. When you learn something, you bring it back and share it back with your people. So we come up with another new medicine like that. So that's where we're beginning to change to where, how can we do this? How can we, release it? It was through book. It was not only through voice, because what's happening today. And I always say, I think Creator made me a guinea pig, because I have to know what I'm talking about. When you're working in a restaurant, hey, here, eat, cappuccino, I like to put my 3 spoon of sugar in it and whip it down. I say, oh, thank you, chef. Because how I started was prepping. He said, you're not going to learn anything online. I wanted to go there, but no, you stay back here. I started learning how to prepare, because I'm very good with meat. I was very good cutting fish and all that. And so I think that's where, and throughout my...
But explain why were you so good at cutting? So when he talks about that, so let's say there's a wild caught salmon, and you have to have a relationship with that animal to cut it, to portion it, to get the skin. And you see chefs go in and hack. It's this fight. It's this. And Walter goes in and he touches it and he makes peace with it. And then his knife goes like butter, just smooth. And the animal just allows him to cut it. And so he was good at what he did because of the relationship that he had with everything that he touched. And a lot of chefs go in and they have no relationship. Even, we see kids, they go to a supermarket and it's all packaged. You don't even know that it was an animal or that it was a plant. And so I think he's being modest about that. But the chefs, they wanted him because of that communication, that it responded. And if you're going to take something down, you better be able to butcher it. Otherwise, don't take it down. Don't take it down. You have to have that relationship, right?
Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's how I work. And I was asked at not Bishop Lodge, Cafe Escalera. I don't know if some of you are familiar with that, but no, I know her and I worked there, and Mediterranean food. And that's when I started learning. And because when this guy brings fish, because he's the, Jeff, what's that?
Costco, above sea level.
Above sea level. So he
another
brings
chef that now does fish.
So he knows all the kitchen and all that. So you're the best. How you cut fish, how you do with the animals and all that. I'd be like, you know. So you kind of pat yourself in the back, yay, you know. So anyway, that's how I started to learn
And not
as
wasting.
not wasting,
Yeah.
and I always love to always tease. You know, it became a game. Like I'll put a towel underneath it. Like maybe if some girls are pastry chef, like there's a snake underneath it. They pull that towel that's like a coil up and you know, and make everybody laugh, you know. But we utilize that everything that we even the skin, you know,
Everything.
nothing goes to waste. And so that's how I was taught, and at the same time I was learning, and that's how I learned. And the wave, just following that wave, that really helped me change. And the grandma were concerned, seeing the people, what they're struggling. And when I realizing going to a ceremony, when you go to a ceremony, mostly all you see is these old traditional native food. That's when you really see it. Beyond that, you go back to whatever it is, you know, you eat. But anyway, when I saw that, that's just something that there was sugar that they add, syrup that they add into their native food. And that's where it was a huge concern. We had to change, we had to take those things back out. So that's my message today, and just something that is through the book that, you know, that just shows you and what I'm talking about. And for me, I don't like to slop my food down and here, you know, I love to make it food look pretty, be presentable, make sure it tastes good. That's the way I taught myself. That's the way I was taught. It's just something that I learned that, you know, just something that I wanted to represent my people. Because at the time, you know, we were not, and I always say to myself, like Lois was tell, there was no native food. There's no, you know, we have no cuisine. How people look at us. And what really struck me is like, no, I want to change that. To change, we do have it. And there's stories, there's songs, there's a teaching that goes with it, you know, because one of the important things is for our children or those that yet to come, what are we going to leave behind? And just something that I want to leave something good behind to be recognized and saying that, hey, this is what I was supposed to do. The medicine that I was supposed to bring back to my people. And here it is, I'm doing. And that's just something that you know, you have to love what you do, right? You know, you have to love.
And there it is again, that relationship, you know, that circle, it's all connected. It's all intertwined. We were interviewed this morning. Oh, they hounded me. Just, can you write this article? And you know, we're really a little bit oversubscribed this week, to be honest. And I said, no, I can't. It was for Savor magazine. And she called us today to interview, and she's going to write it, which was the perfect solution, right? There's always a way to work stuff out. And as we were being interviewed, you know, one of the things that I think our message is that, and I used the analogy of living on the river. So we're a community living on the river, and we're really good stewards, and we take care of the river. But the people to the north of us and the people to the south of us pollute the river. So are we making a difference? And this is where we open it up. This is where it's all inclusive. We need all colors, all people, all ages, all sizes, all religions, all ethnicities to come together to do this, because we can't do it alone. It has to take the entire circle of life, the entire all beings. And so that's the invitation that we have. We invite everyone to become stewards, everyone to have a relationship with their food, everyone to be respectful to the food and the earth and the planet and the animals and the water, and have that be the message, that be a part of sustainability, because can't do it alone. So you're all invited to join us on this movement and be included in this process, because we need you. And we also need to teach the younger generation. So this little one reminds us that if we don't teach her the prayer, the story, the song, the language, the recipe, how can she pass it on? Do you know how quickly something disappears? Most people say 2, 3, 4 generations. 1. I can't tell you how many times I'm in the shower and I think, my mom's gone. Oh, Mom, I have this question I wish I could ask you. And so in all of our lineages, we worked with an elder from Jemez Pueblo, and he said, we're all earth people. We're all indigenous to the earth. And we have an obligation to her, to our lineages, to who we are, to carry on these traditions. And the beauty is, we have these little iPhones and it's got this voice memo setting, and we can look, we're live. Hi, everyone. We're streaming. We have all of this wonderful technology, and we can document it. We can pass it on. We can leave a legacy for others. Very important. So that she knows who she is, where she came from. There are 4 questions, right? Who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? And what am I going to leave behind? And that's what that elder did to me. I couldn't live with myself. And I'm sure there's some people that can. They could have continued to photograph the fast food and make good money and be happy. For me personally, I couldn't. Walter couldn't. And so we have to all make conscious decisions. What is our journey? What is our purpose? How do we share it? How do we do it? And it's up to each one of us. And everybody has that choice. It's a good choice. So, should we, you want to say any more words? And then we'll open
just,
to questions.
I just wanted to let all of you know, being as a Native, and because I was brought up by a non-Native family, and when you go back to your home and you have to start all over, like, when they start speaking to, I can understand, but from here it's different, So I had a hard time relearning my culture and my songs, and to this day I always have a difficult. The second language that I speak in my native way, they come crisscross with each other, because we look at, as a Native people, we look at things in a different way. We understand things, the word is something simple, We don't need to add a lot of whatever it is to make the food taste good or whatever. What can it be? Taste whatever it is that we're saying, instead of like add a lot of whatever it is, then it loses the flavor. I want you to be able to taste that pinto beans instead of smother with whatever it is, and there's no flavor to it. And I think the beauty about it is I want people to taste the flavor of what that goes with it, how it was planted, the struggle, the farmers that they went through, the same thing, the people that raised the animal, because when you have an animal, I realize when they get sick, sometimes when you walk in the heat and what happened, you get, you kind of feel not strong. You start feel like you're getting sick. They're like that.
The plants.
The animals. That's what the earth is going through too. She gets sick, she's struggling. So we have to make a change, and we have to pass that message to the little ones. And that's what I do. And realizing I have to learn some songs. I have to learn these ways that comes with it.
And teach it.
Pass
it on.
That's just something that in my way, nothing is mine. It belongs to the people. not only Native people, it's all colors.
people, all
That's why
colors.
we have it on our bag. These are the four fingers. I mean, the five fingers, the color, and the Native, Oriental, Lagana, non-Native, and then the Black Nation, the tribe, and that's how it is. There's no one's left out. Everybody's included here. And just something and that's just the way I was taught. I was taught both ways, the Western and the Native way. And we learned my culture, and here I am speaking the language. If I speak in Navajo to you, and I say, what the heck is talking about? That's how we won the war, right? The Navajo code talkers, So it's been used in all sorts of ways. Nothing went to waste on the hide we utilize, and the antlers that we use it for tools, and the hide too. And some part of the animals are medicine. That means they're medicine right there for a certain part.
And the plants.
Because they eat plants. All these different type of plants that they eat. And we eat it, it turns into a medicine. Maybe to you, if I feed you guys, you'd be like, ew, what are you eating? But it's medicine, because it's going to cure that cancer inside of you.
Whatever it
It's
is.
going to get rid of it. That's what food does. That's what animals, they know where the best food is. They go to that. But today they're being shot with some certain things just to get their meat big, even in their water.
Pesticides, all these things, which we.
So, the danger part is like, oh, I'm a vegetarian. Really? Where you buy your food? For me, I see that back home. It's like, oh, bashes, that's what we have on the reservation.
Oh.
And it's all been sprayed with pesticide and all that. But if they're being sprayed with all that, then what the bugs do? What happens to them? Their stomach, they blow up.
Yeah, so we really
what we
try
eat,
and encourage local and
what does it do to
sustainable and
us?
organic. Yeah, keeping
So
it
just something that
simple.
we have to look
Healthy.
again.
Yeah.
I always tell people, look again. If you don't understand, not from here, go on another side. Maybe look at it. Go to another side. Go behind there. Look around.
Let's open it
But
up
not
to some
off, yeah.
questions. So we're going to open it up to some questions, and then we'll end with the song. Vibration, sound, very important. And so we use sound to close the circle, and that vibration can be with all of you. So before we close the circle and we eat, we're going to open it up to questions, and you have us here for you. So ask away what you want to know or what we can answer. Walter and I have dedicated our lives to this cause. So we are here for you. We have cards. If you want to take our card and you want to email us or keep in touch with us, we are here. We have dedicated our lives to this. It's very important. So any questions?
Just to hold on a second, please.
Oh, they're gonna do.
If anyone who speaks could please use the microphone so that
Because they're
online community
recording.
can also hear.
Yeah.
And if you're online and you want to ask a question, please post it in the chat and I'll share it here.
Great.
Thanks.
I'm fascinated by the anthropology of the cuisine that you talk about. And some of us have lineages that are in different areas. And how do we, we could do our DNA test or whatever, but how do we then research what was eaten then that might be better for us to eat now? How does that begin?
So interesting. Some of my students call this blood memory, where there's a memory in the ancestral DNA physically in the body. And if you don't know it or it's hard to research, listen to your body. So in my lineages, except for that Northern European, is completely not dairy. I don't do well with dairy. My body doesn't do well with dairy. I can tolerate a little, and if I'm going to suffer, it has to be for something pretty good. Some really good local yogurt or a little bit of really good ice cream or really good goat cheese. But certainly not a pint of commercial milk, right? Let's put it that way. So listen to your body, and I don't know what your ancestry is. And, people are doing all these DNA tests, but the only way that they know where stuff comes from is, you have to have samples. So my brother was always like, Walter, will you, and he's like, no, natives have been poked and prodded for a long time. So they don't have a lot of indigenous samples. So it might come back as other. There's a category called other. They don't know, right? So, that's not a great way. But what in your story? How did you migrate here, or what foods feel good? I do really well on an almost vegan diet. I do really well. He doesn't do as well, and he definitely doesn't do good with wheat. Wheat's not in his DNA. I can tolerate wheat. I do better with corn. So your body will tell you, the memory and the ancestral DNA will respond. And food, you should not feel like you want to lie down and go to bed after you eat, guys. You should feel revitalized and energized. You shouldn't feel sick and tired. Listen to your body. Your body will tell you, right? We went out to a local restaurant the other day, and, I got, sort of a northern New Mexican, and they love the cheese and they pile on. I did ask, are the beans made with lard? Or no, they're vegetarian. But I did not feel well after that meal. So something in the meal didn't sit right with me. So I probably won't be going back anytime soon. Listen to your body, So I got home and I ate this giant salad, lots of sprouts and microgreens to sort of counteract the breakfast that I had had. And I put my nutritional yeast and a beautiful sesame, dressing on it. And this morning I felt fine. That food worked for me. The greens, the microgreens, the radicchio, the winter greens, all these freesias, the lettuces. Oh, I was in heaven. Your body will tell you. It totally will. So does that answer your question? Does that help you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else? It's a good question. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I have a very practical question. Where do you like to shop in Santa Fe?
Like for food?
For food, for ingredients, yeah.
I was at farmer's market this morning. I bought my one loaf of delicious bread, which we both love, which cost a fortune, but we savor every bite. I bought my greens. We will go to Trader Joe's for staples like organic flour. They have good organic quinoa, organic canned beans. They're not really known for their great produce. So I would rather go to the co-op or to Sprouts. I love natural grocers. That's kind of my go-to. We like Whole Foods. I don't really like the parking lot of Whole Foods. So that's always a deterrent, because I find that people are a little angry in that parking lot. So getting into the store is a little more difficult. Once I'm in there, I'm fine. It's the parking and the getting in and then getting out. So, we will go there. We don't go there too often because of the parking lot. But Natural Grocers has a happier parking lot. I don't know why. I can't tell you, and then I love Food King for its New Mexican products. They have a New Mexican food product aisle. So we have chilies and Rio Grande herbs, and we buy Cota and things from them. And, I don't buy much else there, but I do love that New Mexico food section. Where else? That's pretty much it. So, when we do an event, we might go to 5 or 6 stores to get what we need, which is a little arduous, but that's important to us. you know, if you go to one, you're sacrificing this. So farmers market is pretty much every Saturday, sometimes Tuesday, although the Tuesday doesn't have as much. We do buy wholesale, so we have certain vendors. One of my students is growing mushrooms, so I met her at the farmers market and I'm trying her new mushrooms. So I have trumpet, oyster, and lion's mane, which will be in my Thanksgiving meal in a couple of days. So, you know, again, we're very pro small mom and pop enterprise as well as foods, but we do try and we're very organic conscious and local conscious and native conscious. You know, I might mail order wild rice from my friends in Minnesota that get on a canoe and hand harvest the wild rice, and then I buy it from them, and we support that enterprise. You know, the trade routes are still in existence. They just have morphed into USPS, UPS, or FedEx Ground, right? So those are still the trade routes. They're just a little different. So we don't only buy local. We will buy outside of our area, you know, to support someone who harvests chokecherries or wild rice or acorn flour or whatever native enterprises. And we're very tepary beans, right? We're very pro supporting those small food companies, yeah, as well. Yeah. You have to wait for the, you have to wait.
I don't think I need it. I'm fine.
Just because people we have people out there, right, that are watching. So we want to respect that.
Thank you. So I am an insufferable omnivore. And my question to you is, I've really enjoyed your talk and your presentation, but my question is, how does one offset preciousness about one's eating habits? By that, I mean, how do you not turn an eating habit, belief system into something that's so precious that you're really tripping all over yourself trying to find the right bean?
So I don't understand the word precious, the context and how you're using it. I don't understand the context of precious.
Maybe she means stress.
Stress?
Well, no, it's more than stress. It's turning our dietary habits into such a belief system. I'm using the word preciousness in that it becomes just a little bit too twee about what we eat.
Okay, so when you use the word precious, I think of that little creature in Lord of the Rings, precious. And so it's throwing me a little bit because he wanted the ring so bad he couldn't function. So is that how you mean it? Is that the context? Are you talking about flavor?
No, I'm talking about belief systems, about what we eat, how much, what's good, what's bad, what green, you know, the frisee is good, but there's something else.
Okay, so everybody has to make a choice. We work with people that are on FDPIR. FDPIR is Food Distribution Program on Indian Reservations. We work with WIC. We work with SNAP Ed. We work with Healthy Kids, Healthy Communities. You have to base what you eat on what you can afford. I mean, my students at IAI, when I teach the Indigenous food class, say, if we live across the street from Whole Foods and we can't afford to shop there, is that access? And the answer is no, that's not access. So what can you afford? What's within your realm? And whatever that is, if it's distributed food, then let's pick the healthiest of the distributed food programs. Cabbage, they distribute now oranges, they distribute apples, they distribute peanut butter. They distribute bananas. So we made a Chunky Monkey ice cream, frozen rotting bananas that nobody wants to eat with peanut butter and dark chocolate chips if you can afford them. If you can't, just make Chunky Monkey with the peanut butter that's distributed and the rotting bananas that you froze. So it's access. It's what do you have access to? What can you afford? And not everyone can afford the same thing. And that's okay.
Mhm.
Maybe you grow a little tiny grow box and you start with that. Seeds are inexpensive. Maybe you have just one tomato plant or one herb plant that you start with. We're just asking people to start somewhere, anywhere. Not that you have to go and buy truffle oil. I don't even like the taste. So, what can you afford?
Meals on Wheels.
Then that's fine. Then let's make the best with that. And let's bless that food. Here we learned that we bow. In Native tradition, we take the energy and put it on us. So take the energy of that beautiful meal from Meals on Wheels that someone gave you and bless yourself with that and nurture yourself with that. And don't worry about the rest. Because don't worry about the rest. Yeah. And those of us that have abundance, let's share. If you need it and we have it, we would be honored to share with you. We have a zero waste policy. Nothing will be wasted tonight. And if you want to take extra tamales, I will personally make a to-go box so that you have enough for tomorrow, because we want you to be fed. We want you to be blessed. We love you and we want to nurture you. Even if it means, my mom grew up very poor. And so she said, don't throw anything away because that could be someone's meal tomorrow. And so we don't waste anything. We save the mushroom stems and we make mushroom stem bruschetta. And we save the potato skins and we put it in the oven to make crispy snacks. Because zero waste is the best way to go. And all the kitchen residents that work with us know we don't even like to waste spoons. Commercial kitchens are the most wasteful thing on the planet. I have my one dirty spoon and I'll give it back to the kitchen at the end of the night. And so I take a clean spoon and put it on so that I don't keep washing this thing 8 million times a day. And I certainly don't want to use plastic and use 20, 50, 100 spoons so I can taste the food to feed you. I have one. Where's yours? Right there.
Yay.
So zero waste. We have our one tasting spoon, which is contaminated. So I have to take a clean spoon and put it on. I don't want to keep washing this and wasting the water and the soap. Zero waste.
I think we have to.
Wrap it up. Yeah. And I'm sorry if I didn't specifically answer your question. I answered it to the best of my ability. So, yeah. So we're just going to close with a song. Okay. If that's okay. And you guys can sit. We stand. Okay. Let's stand. Great. Let's follow our master.
You remind me of now that she's asking the questions, like you're going to back on the reservation. This is the only store you have. Like, then someone will ask you, how can I make this? So you have to show them. I think that's the way, instead of only looking at one way, there's all other ways. And I think don't stress out about it, but everything will work out. Everything will taste good.
So that does conclude the talking part. We feel very honored and blessed to be in this space. I think Upaya, this is a new community for us, and we are so honored that you welcomed us. And thank you so much for letting us come into your kitchen and your space and your community and share this with the general public. We really
Thank you so much.
honored. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois and Walter. I just am so grateful you brought this culture of care in relation to the food and also in relation to the long traditions held by Indigenous peoples. And I'm thinking about the Three Sisters Garden where we met. Yeah. And I have to say, Roxanne's corn was abundant. And we're waiting to bring her special corn back to her, to Santa Clara. And I thank you for being part of that planting, also planting new seeds here. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Who's ready to eat? Yay, best part.
So for our guests, if you leave the Zendo, take a left and another left, you'll enter into the River House kitchen, and you will find Henry and Andrew, who have been in there for the last 2 hours making sure we all have empanaditas and tamales and green chili sauce and red chili sauce and guajillo sauce. So please proceed. And soup. All from this beautiful cookbook, Seed to Plant, Soil to Sky. There are cookbooks in there if you'd like to purchase them. Lois will be signing. So guests, please file out. And they will welcome you in the kitchen.
But I want to sing happy birthday to Kozan. 39, sorry, Kozan. You are captive. So,
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kozan. Happy birthday to you.
all right, so let's